Welcome to the fifth and final session of Live Fully Alive. Our desire with this whole experience has been for you to see how much Jesus is for you. For you. He summed up his life purpose in John 10:10, where we read, "I have come that they might have life and have it to the full." Well, what have we done so far? We've learned that living fully alive is thriving in intimacy and influence. And we learned that the thief's goal is to steal that intimacy and influence and therefore that fully alive life away from us. He does that by tempting us to devalue God's living and crave cistern-like things that are lacking. And we now know that Jesus defeated this thief by living fully alive, dying fully alive, and then being resurrected to fully alive life again. And then Jesus sent the Spirit to help us join in that resurrection and fully alive life ourselves. We can partner with the Holy Spirit to develop character and calling, restoring that intimacy and influence, and living fully alive again. And in this final session, I want to share 2 keys that I believe that you'll need and find very beneficial on your journey. These keys can and will open doors in your life that seem locked or even rusted shut, perhaps. These keys will protect you from trying to live fully alive on your own and keep you focused on Jesus instead. These keys are not complicated, they are simple, but the results of using them are profound. And the first key is a simple formula that should bring an immediate sense of peace. And the formula is just simply this: obedience is greater than competence. Obedience is greater than competence. Put another way, choosing to listen for and then act on Jesus' promptings is the smartest thing you can do. As smart and as competent as you may be, your competence has limits. Jesus' competence is unbound. He's ready, willing, and capable to lead you to your best next step. And all we must do is just simply listen and obey. It's simple. It's straightforward. And sometimes it's easy. Sometimes those promptings, though, invite us to give up a lesser thing for an even greater thing, even before we know the real value of that greater thing. Let me say that again. Sometimes the things Jesus prompts us to do are to give up a lesser thing for a greater thing, even before we know the value of that greater thing. It's still simple, but it's hard because we don't yet know to trust it. But take heart. I found one thing to be consistently true about this: the harder the obedience step, or the bigger that obedience step, the more alive I will be after I take it. And you've already started learning how to do this. Throughout this experience, we've encouraged you to engage a few Bible verses in each one of these lessons. And Bible engagement starts with reading the verses with 2 questions in mind. Question 1 is simply, Jesus, what do you want me to learn from what I'm reading? And then question 2 is, what do you want me to do with what I've learned? The engagement continues by just writing your answers in your I believe and I will statements. What do you want me to learn? You write the answer in the I believe section. What do you want me to do? Put that answer in the I will statement. And this practice is how you learn to hear these promptings from Jesus. And every course and every cohort in this community will encourage you to engage the Bible this way. If you go through all of these things, you'll watch your ability to hear Him go up. Simply obey the promptings and watch the fully alive meter go up in your life. Now, even as I'm saying this, I know that even that word obedience can leave a bad taste in your soul. Obedience for many of us can convey overtones of control, overtones of forceful compliance, and this is not the heart that Jesus has when He uses this word. With Jesus, obedience is always loving and life-giving. Even Jesus Himself was obedient to His Father, and it cost Him His life. Talk about having to trust. But it was through His obedience that He got His life back and was able to give us life too. Jesus might ask you for some hard things, but nothing will be harder than what He Himself experienced. And every prompt He gives you will lead you to the same result that He has, to live life more fully alive. So the most loving thing that he can do is lead you, and the most loving thing that you can do in return is follow his lead. Well, that's key number one. Obedience is greater than competence. Well, the second key is really handy when you're following Jesus' lead or trying to choose God's best in any situation, especially when they seem impossible. And I call this key the gospel cycle. You can use this very, very simple process anytime or anywhere. For example, let's say that your kids are driving you crazy. Your default is to yell at them, but your character goal that you set for yourself is to be more self-controlled and gentle. You want to respond quietly, but you're about to lose it. This is the perfect time to use the gospel cycle. So what is it? What is this gospel cycle? It's 3 very simple phrases. I can't, Jesus can, join Jesus. I can't, Jesus can, join Jesus. The cycle uses very few words, but engages a very high-value process. There's an honest admission, I can't. There's an inspiring declaration, Jesus can. And a bold decision, I'm going to join Jesus. This is the spiritual silver bullet that can break through any stuck spot that you encounter in this journey. I first heard these words from Dan Sutherland, one of the most influential mentors in my life. And even Dan, one of the most competent leaders I've ever known, needs the gospel cycle over and over. And we all need the freedom that comes from admitting where we're stuck, don't we? We all need the courage, especially in the heat of the moment, that comes from remembering Jesus is with us, and we all need the power beyond our own to push through. And Jesus is ready to provide all of them. All we must do is ask. The gospel cycle is how we turn away from Satan's cisterns and start turning towards life. The gospel cycle is how we break multi-generational broken family patterns. The gospel cycle is how we move one challenge at a time from just getting by with life to living fully alive. Well, let me wrap up this course by sharing an example of how the gospel cycle helped me and my family begin to live more fully alive. As I mentioned in session 1, one of the biggest challenges in my life has been my short temper. I inherited it naturally, but I came to hate it. And I came to hate it because I could see how it hurt the people that I loved. Just one of the graces that Jesus gave me. Well, one evening I had an ugly dispute with my oldest kid, my type A daughter, who was probably 16 at the time. And it was a sad night. We both said things that we regretted, went to bed unsettled. Well, I woke up the next morning and went about my typical routine, which was to do my Bible engagement, to read a chapter of the scriptures and write my I believe and I will. And Jesus must have just been laughing up in heaven, because my reading plan, he knew this, but I didn't. My reading plan included a very, very pertinent verse. It was this, Proverbs 15:1, the first verse I read. And it says, a gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. Here I was, the very night before, not doing the gentle answer thing, not doing the fully alive thing, but doing the thing that was worse, harsh words, cistern-like behavior, and tempers did flare. So here I am, asking the question, okay, here's my verse. What's God teaching me? What's my I believe statement going to be? Well, the I believe statement for that day was easy. I wrote it down. I believe I failed in serving my daughter last night. I was not gentle. I was not controlled. I failed to live fully alive. I admitted it, but I wasn't done. It was time to engage the gospel cycle. I had already admitted where I'd failed, but now it was time to declare that Jesus can face that situation with gentleness and self-control. I did it, and I could sense my courage starting to return. Now it was time to join Jesus in taking the next step to address the open situation. I just simply asked Jesus, which is the second thing we do with our I will statements, is what do you want me to do now? Now, I need to be honest here and let you know that I did not like his response. It was a big ask. I sensed him very clearly say, I want you to apologize to your daughter as soon as you see her, without expecting her to admit any part in the escalation. I could see her starting to bound down the steps on her way to school at any time, and there was no way in my guts that I was going to apologize without expecting her in some way to own her part. That was rough. This was going to be a new one for me. It didn't seem fair. She was complicit, and she should own it. But Jesus wasn't done. He added, not only that, Brian, but give her permission to quote this verse from Proverbs 15 to you anytime you start to escalate on her in the future. Now, honestly, that felt over the top. There's no way that this was the best plan. She was out of line, so why am I being corrected? That's how I felt. It was a big ask from Jesus, but remember, it's usually in these big asks that the biggest life change comes. And again, that's when I remembered the gospel cycle. I was asking for the ability to be gentle and controlled. Jesus was guiding me toward it in the heat of the moment. I couldn't understand how it was a good plan, but I also knew that Jesus was smarter than me, and I relented. I chose to obey over than trust in my plan. I chose obedience over competence. I trusted him even though I didn't like it. I can't. Jesus can. Join Jesus. I wrote down the I will statement, and I remember when Hannah started making her way down those stairs like it was yesterday. I did exactly what Jesus asked. It was hard, but hard paid off. My tendency to escalate with anyone, not just her, was greatly diminished on that day and has been ever since. I couldn't, but Jesus could. I joined Jesus, and now my temper takes a lot longer to get worked up. I am much quicker to bring it down when I do start to escalate, and I'm still joining Jesus to live more fully alive, but I like my progress an awful lot. Well, it's time to start to wrap up this Live Fully Alive course. We hope it's been a huge encouragement to you. And more than anything else, we hope you see that the fully alive life is for real. You can define it now. You know stories of what it looks like now. The fully alive life is attainable. You can live it right now. You can live fully alive because Jesus lived that life and is ready through his Spirit to help you do the same. Want to be certain that you'll live more fully alive in the future? If you do, then do yourself a favor. Invite 2 people to go through this course with you, because courses like this are far more valuable when you lead them than it is by just going through them on your own. Make a goal to invite some people to go with you through this within the next 3 days. Want to dig deeper into what the Bible says about living fully alive? You can do that very easily by downloading your free copy of the ebook I put together, and a link for that is below. Let's keep encouraging each other in this community, saying that we can't, but Jesus can. So let's all join Jesus. God bless you.